Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Advisicon's webinar series. We are pleased to present to you task collaboration and tracking challenges. We recognize that there are challenges with getting things done, and especially around the task level of things. We're going to look at some solutions with Microsoft 365 today. We are Advisicon. We have deep roots in project management. We recognize that everyone does projects, even if they're calling it programs, events, or just simply work, but they don't always have the best tools or the right way for the job. Our mission is to deliver tools, technology, and training to maximize impact, productivity, and purpose. Looking at today's agenda, we'll look at what are some of those barriers to getting work done. Then we'll talk about Microsoft 365 solutions, and I'll even offer a bonus solution beyond the scope of Microsoft 365. And then we'll summarize it and talk about some next steps for you. A little bit about myself. My name is Sean. I do have a background in math education, and as we know, that just means I've got a lot of problems. I do have experience in implementing Microsoft 365 as a solution. I have a decade of experience delivering instruction and training. I am a PMP and I have the associated CAPM, and I am a semi-professional dad joke teller. For example, a police officer pulls over a car because it's swerving all over the road. Officer walks up to the driver and says, "How high are you?" And the driver replies, No, officer, it's "Hi, how are you?" Let's get started. Let's look at why tasks have a failure to complete. If you have ever taken a CPR training, one of the steps is to designate someone to call emergency services. Instead of saying, "Somebody call for help," you should say, "You," gesturing to the person, "call 911, at least in the States, call emergency services, come back and tell me what they say." In that task of calling for help, only one person was identified, and even clearly identified with the pointing. That way, the weight of the task is felt to the point where that person wants to get that burden off. So if you ever heard, "I didn't know that was my task," maybe we have a solution for you today. Secondly, some people say, "I didn't know the deadline." When I was a kid, I had chores, and one of them was to clean all the mirrors and the tabletops. The scent of Windex and lemon-scented Pledge brings back both haunting and yet satisfying memories. But I was not only told what was to be done, but when it needed to be done. You see, this was a Saturday morning chore, but for kids, what also happened on Saturday mornings? That's right, cartoons. Knowing my gravitation to cartoons over chores, the deadline was clearly drawn for me. "Sean, you need to do your chores before you can watch cartoons." And since X-Men started at 8 a.m., I needed to be done before 8 a.m. Deadlines and clearly stating them are motivating factors, but more than that, it communicates to your resources, to your team, here's your responsibility, and here's the deadline. And this will hopefully prompt success and no more failures to complete. A third item that we're going to look at is someone saying, "I didn't understand the task." Going back to my childhood chore of cleaning all the mirrors and tables, I had difficulty understanding the word all. To me, all the tables meant the ones in the living rooms where my precious cartoons would be watched. So I would remove the magazines and books on those tabletops, spray, wipe, and put the items back. The 3 small side tables and the large coffee table was clean, and I was done. Or so I thought. I was soon corrected that the dining table is a table, and it needs the same cleaning. I was given the assignment and the deadline, but my failure to complete was I didn't understand the entire breadth of the assignment. So these are the common failures to complete. Understanding the burden I didn't know that was my task. Understanding time, as I mentioned, the deadline, when does this need to be completed? And of course, understanding the scope. How big, how wide, how high does the end product need to be? Next, we'll see some solutions that you can start implementing today using Microsoft 365. The first solution comes with using the program To Do. Now, To Do might not seem like the most fancy and, is that the best you got? And actually, it is a very useful tool, and we'll explore some of the features and reasons why it might fit. Looking at the burden, time, and scope, we'll see that you can see that the burden has a place where you can assign the task to someone, where you can add a due date. You can even send a reminder so that the time doesn't become a failure to complete. Also, you can add to the scope. You can add details with checklists, files, notes. A bonus feature beyond burden, time, and scope with To Do is that it includes automation where tasks that are due today will automatically get added to a list called Add to My Day. That way, really, as you work, you have a focused, streamlined, targeted list that tells you exactly what needs to be done, when, and of course, because it's in your to-do list, it is assigned to you. Looking at the user interface, I mentioned here on the right, here's the tasks, here's the scope. If you complete these checklist items, you are successful. Here's the time. Remind me when to do this, and adding the due date automatically populates that into the My Day list. And then here's the burden. Who does this get assigned to? Now you're clearly gonna have a burden, time, and scope filled in, and hopefully that really reduces any cracks of failures to complete. As I mentioned before, here's the Added to My Day. It's a great feature with automation available, really helpful. So when I start to do, I know exactly what I need to do. Next solution with Microsoft 365 is Planner. Planner fulfills the burden, time, and scope with, for example, assignments. The assignment field is referenced from Azure Active Directory, and you can pull people from within your tenant to the assignment field. Furthermore, when it comes to time, you can add not only an end date, not only a due date, but also a start date. When should you start this task? As you create your schedule, you can clearly see what tasks are running in parallel, what are predecessors and successors. Now, that's not a native function to assign those, but you can create that manually. Furthermore, you can have notifications automatically generated to your email that say, hey, this task is due today. These tasks are past due even, and you can see what's coming up for each individual. As far as scope, again, checklists, attachments, notes, just really hopefully clear the assignment for the individual. And bonus, yes, you can add comments into Planner. Let's look at that. Here's the burden. The person assigned is at the top, again, pulled from Active Directory, so you have their avatar. Time is mentioned with start and end dates. And again, checklists and attachments. If you follow these tasks, you will be successful. Reference this graphic that will help you be successful. And one of the bonus features I mentioned was the comments. This is the communication. This is a field where those who actively participate will get automatic notifications. And when I say actively participate, it means you have to have dropped one comment. So best practice, everyone who is on this task could just add a dot and just say, I am now actively going to get comments and updates. All right, let's look at solutions with lists. Burden, time, and scope again. Yes, you can assign people in lists. Now you might say lists is just a list, but list is evolving to where it can absolutely be used as a work management tool. You can assign due dates, and you can even add custom automations for those reminders. For example, where in Planner, they might just give you a limited window of reminders. You can customize your automations to when you want your reminders to come through. As I mentioned with scope, you can add a description field that will give the scope clarity. And bonus, custom columns. This is something that that makes lists stand out from planner or to do. You can add custom items on things that you want to reference, things that you want to use to describe the assignment. Let's take a look. I want to make it known to you, first of all, that lists can now be generated with templates. You can have Microsoft 365 templates, or your organization can build them. As far as work management, I suggest using this work progress tracker. Let's take a look at what it offers. Out of the box, it kind of looks like this in the back here. I encourage you to try it for yourself as well. Here's a description highlighting the scope and hopefully clearly spelling it out. Here's your time box. You can start with a start date and a due date. And then, yes, here's your burden field. Who does this get assigned to? And it does pull from Active Directory. I mentioned before that custom columns can be added, and here are the types of columns, whether they're choices, date and time, multiple lines, and so on and so forth. When dived into, List has custom automations that can make your work progress management much simpler. As I mentioned before, here's a bonus solution. We've looked at how you can fill in the gaps of failure to complete using burden, time, and scope. But here's one more. Beyond the assignment and the details of the tasks, communication, above all, really is the underlying tool that will fix any failures to complete. You can communicate who the assignment is burdened to. You can communicate the time frame. You can communicate the scope. But when it comes to really getting it done, communication and check-ins really are the ones that is the tool that's going to drive these other three. For example, you could communicate at the daily level where your team meets and says, how is this task going? How is this task going? An easy thing to ask is, what's standing in your way of getting things done? And as a project manager, that will be your role and responsibility to remove that impediment. You can have weekly meetings where we can discuss the bigger progress of things. You can discuss risks. You can discuss opportunities here. And definitely this is where you can discuss changes as needed, as you can have more time to discuss bigger items that affect your project. Furthermore, you can communicate in a central location. Most teams nowadays are not co-located. You can have your communication centralized. You can have your documents centralized, and that with Microsoft 365 can be done through Teams. Not only you can communicate and centralize your documents, but you can even add your own third-party apps, tools that your organization will use to especially get the tasks done. In summary, we've looked at some of the impediments to getting tasks done and some solutions with Microsoft 365 and even beyond Microsoft 365, that human face-to-face or virtual meeting interaction, those communications that will encourage or help you to remove impediments to get things done. I want to thank you for watching this webinar. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, like or follow us on social media platforms, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We offer many free trainings in our online academy. You can access those by going to advisicon.thinkific.com. For project managers, simply become a member of Advisicon Academy to receive the code to redeem PDUs. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.